Let's do this. The Cult of Hockey podcast by the faithful and for the faithful. I'm David Staples of the Edmonton Journal, and I'm here tonight with Bruce McCurdy. What's that little thing on your window there, Bruce? There's a little blue just on the window frame. Is that a little bird?
Oh yeah, that's just a little ornamental bird. Yeah,
Oh, I don't know
I
if
got
I've
my
noticed that.
camera at a funky angle. Usually the window's out of the frame, but
Are you a bird watcher?
I am. I got bird feeders right on my windows here. I'm sitting right in the bay window, so and I got a big spruce tree out front, some feeders, so I see them right from here.
My wife has set up birdopolis in our front yard. We've got like 10 feeders in they're all
Nice.
together, and man, the birds are flocking to them right now. I can tell you they're
Ooh,
desperate for their poor
they need all
guys.
the food they can get, eh?
They do. All right, Bruce. Um, the Oilers lost 4-2 to the St. Louis Blues. It was not a particularly close game, I didn't think. The Oilers managed to scrape their way back into the game down 2-0. They tied it up 2-2, but it had a feeling of inevitability that the Blues were the better team tonight. And
They were.
17 grade A shots to 11 grade A shots for the Oilers, I think, bears that out. Um, yeah, it's the first game back after a break. I guess I feel like it had a bad feeling to it. I don't want to make too much of it, though, because it's just one game after a break. They're still, they're missing their top defenseman, Darnell Nurse, missing Jesse Puljujärvi. Of course, St. Louis is also missing players, but yeah, Edmonton seemed a smaller team tonight. They got pushed around a bit. Not necessarily like physically, but just St. Louis kind of bossed that game, is how I would put it. And the Oilers were unable to get a whole heck of a lot done, is the truth. Let's do our two good things, two bad things, and two numbers podcast. What is your good thing, Bruce?
Well, my general good thing is just watching hockey again. It was nice to sit down and watch a game, and I enjoyed much of the game. I mean, the Oilers obviously were more than a little rusty. Hadn't played for the last four games in a row were postponed, and they haven't had the same team on the ice for two games running for a while now, and they were out of sync. Anyway, for a good thing, I will take uh, out of the two great shots that scored the two goals for Edmonton, I will take the second one of those by Evan Bouchard, uh, following up a play where he first of all set Connor McDavid in on the left wing with a good pass into the zone. And McDavid, from an extremely sharp angle, tried to bank one in off the goalie's ear, I think, caught a piece of the post, and it just came out to the sidewall. It just looked like a nothing play. But Hyman went for the front of the net, and Bouchard saw the opening, and it wasn't a Bouch bomb of any description. It was just a smart, crafty. Oh, there's a lane to the net. The goalie's not quite set. Let's sift one in there, and boom, it's in the net. Paul Coffey used to score goals on shots just like that, where he just catch the goalie unawares and just sort of, flick his wrists, boom. And it would be count just the same as an end-to-end rush or a great big slapper. And that was a goal scorer shot for a D-man. I've been saying all along, I think that Bouchard is a really strong chance to be a double digits goal scorer from the back end as a fairly consistent thing. And now he's already got 6 goals in 30 games in his first real shot, and that's without any time really on the power play.
He is an amazing offensive hockey player. He just reads the game so well. He's calm with the puck. He's got an incredible shot. He can really pass. He should be on the power play. Like it's like I see the argument for him not being on the power play is the astonishing thing. That's the level of talent on the Oilers, but that level of talent, yeah, he's going to put up some points in the NHL. He is a highly skilled player. And Draisaitl's shot, Bruce, that was a hard choice because that was
Oh,
a fantastic
what a
shot.
wicked
I thought
drive.
Leon was probably the Oilers' best forward. Like at least he had it going on. He was moving. I didn't necessarily see that from a lot of the other players,
Hmm.
especially the bottom line players. Man, there was lots of passengers tonight, like players you just hardly noticed at all. Uh, my bad thing. Duncan Keith played 26 minutes. He did some good things with the puck. He passed well. But Bruce, on the third and fourth goals, I just found it to be underwhelming and disappointing. Um, the third goal. It's tied. They finally get it back, tied 2-2. It's a huge moment for the Oilers. And 4 minutes later, St. Louis scores to go ahead. And it comes on a lame turnover by Yamamoto in the offensive end. And
Yep, sure did.
Nuge then kind of, instead of playing it safe, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins kind of does the old Matador defense at the Oilers' blue line, and they whip right around him. And then it's a 2-on-1 against Duncan Keith. So there's already been 2 iffy plays.
Yep.
Nugent's play was like the effort's there. It's just he just doesn't read that properly. Just doesn't think, hey, if I just keep backing up here, they're not going to get much. But he decides to be a bit aggressive, and it creates a 2-on-1 down Keith's side. And then Duncan Keith gets beat on a pass into the slot. And, it's just like, come on, veteran D-man. Make that play. Make that play. Stop that rush right there. That's what you're paid 5.5 million a year. That's what you're 39 years in the NHL. Not 39 years on Earth, and how many years in the NHL? 18 of them or whatever it is as a top line defenseman. Like, you got to make that play for this team.
17th year now.
17th. So that's what we're hoping. That's the expectation, that you're going to make that play. But as much as I didn't like that play, it was actually on the 4th goal that I really didn't like the play. It was a one-timer power play shot from, I guess that's the left. Is that the left dot? And yeah. Keith's in front of the net, and he just flat out loses a battle. Like, everything in your head, and it's his head, you'd think has got to be thinking, okay, shot's coming. What does the veteran D-man do? He's not puck watching. He's looking for the guy who's going to get the rebound, and he's lifting his stick. He's taking his body out. He's getting ready to win that battle, get inside position, and win that battle. Because the veteran D-man has been there thousands and thousands of times, and he knows just how dangerous that rebound can be. So he's thinking, that's all he's thinking. I'm looking for the guy who's going to get the rebound if there is one, and I'm going to stop him. And he didn't. He didn't make that play. The St. Louis attacker got the inside position and scored the goal. I just found both plays a little bit frustrating, honestly. Yeah. Like, frankly, I expect more out of Duncan Keith than those 2 plays.
Yeah, well, he had some good plays in this game. He did read some passes and cut him out. He was credited with a couple of takeaways, and a couple of block shots, and he had some good moments without the puck and a couple of okay passes with it. But as you say, the 3-2 and 4-2 goals in a 4-2 game, and he was flat out beat on both plays. And he did play a lot tonight, 26 minutes and 50 seconds. So that's a big ask for a guy coming back from the COVID list. But such is the state of the Oilers just now, isn't it? That they're asking people to step up. And
who's back next, Bruce? Do you know the list? When who is
RV and Nurse?
When
should both be back for Friday's game.
Can they skate tomorrow? Do you know? Or
that's a good question.
I can't remember.
They're not even allowed to join the team until their 10 days are up. And Puljujarvi, as you'll recall, he was in Seattle and he got pulled out that day, and he couldn't get home to Edmonton until the next night. So he couldn't start his quarantine until after that. Like, I was thinking, he missed the game on the 18th. He'll be back on the 29th, no problem. But because it took him so long to get back to Edmonton, he was still basically in the penalty box.
Well, they are in
tonight's game.
They are in the States where the CDC has changed the quarantine rule to 5. Yeah. So I don't know if the Alberta rule still applies to the Alberta player in New York.
That wasn't clear, was it?
If they can go by, now they're down there in the States, they could have played tonight in theory, if they were healthy enough to play and ready to go. So I'm guessing that the Canadian rule still applies, but I don't know. I don't know what the deal is.
Well, the players wouldn't have had time to join the team because, as far as I understand, they were quarantined in Edmonton, and the ruling came down this afternoon.
Didn't it change? Didn't the rule change?
Maybe this morning.
Monday? I thought it changed Monday. I might be incorrect about that. If you're saying it happened today, I mean, I've been away. I was
Yeah.
away in Calgary a couple days, so with family,
Things are changing so darn fast, Dave. It's
isn't
hard to
that
keep
true?
track of what happens in what hour, let alone what day,
Oh,
anyway. It took sort of been the news has been dribbling out and dribs and drabs, and that was one piece of it. Anyway, they weren't there, and
yeah.
the Oilers sure missed Darnell Nurse tonight, I would have to say.
Oh, did they ever?
We'll jump right ahead to my bad thing, if that's all right, and
Go
that is
ahead.
the very unfortunate NHL debut of poor Dmitry Samorukov, a player we've been following on this
Yeah.
blog for 5 years now, since the Oilers drafted him in 2017, writing prospect reports, watching him play in Russia, watching him play in World Cup, watching him play in Bakersfield. Finally gets his chance, and he had an absolutely brutal time of it. St. Louis absolutely destroyed him. I hope they didn't like destroy him. Like, this would be a huge confidence shaking experience for a young fellow who played 2 minutes and 28 seconds. Got lit up on the first and second goals against, one of which was a two-man on zero breakaway, the other which was a one-man on zero breakaway, and both times the men got directly behind him. And then he had one more nightmare shift after that where they actually got a save, and he got off the ice and sat on the bench, and there he remained for the entire rest of the game, 2 minutes and 28 seconds,
Is it,
-2,
uh,
and one shot attempt that was blocked. That's his entire stat line. Like, he didn't have any opportunity to get into the rhythm of the game, to impose his physical game, which is a big part of his game. Like, he was just a deer in the headlights right from the beginning. St. Louis pounced and they executed.
yeah.
Those were great goals they scored. I mean, the 2-on-0, pass roof job. I mean, what are you going to do? Not going to blame the goalie on that one.
He was in
And
a
then,
tough spot there in a way because it's like it was going to be a 3-on-1 rush.
mm,
I just thought he was tentative, Bruce, on that first goal
yes,
against. If he had gone for it, he would have won
yeah,
that puck, but he
maybe.
did. He was tentative and not
Well, he doesn't know.
understandable. That's how
Speed
he
of the
looked.
NHL is that extra half a
Yeah,
heartbeat faster than the AHL, and part of that is just decision time. And if you're a little slow making your decision, they'll make you pay in this league. And boy, did they make him pay. Oh man, I
did
felt
they
so
ever?
bad for him, but what are you going to do? I mean, I think it's hard to blame Dave Tippett for sitting him on the bench for the rest of the day, or the rest of the game after
No,
the
they had a
third
game.
disaster shift.
They had a
So
game to win. I agree, Bruce. I saw some people were mad about that, but they did have a game to win. He was clearly shaken. Like there's times to stick with a young D-man and play through it. I didn't. I was okay with the coach deciding no, this isn't that time. The first one was tough too because the turnover by Bouchard at the blue line,
yep.
and it's a break. And then the second one, I was thinking, man, did he ever get whipped by Kyrou? But then I saw Kyrou do the same thing in the third period to Cuckoo.
Yep.
So clearly, this is something that is in Jordan Kyrou's bag of tricks. He's a hell of a hockey player, and so anyways, but Samorukov didn't watch the body. He didn't play the body. He just got beat.
Yeah.
And the fact that I think Jack Michaels mentioned earlier in his game that his Samarukov's girlfriend had flown in just for the game. I just thought, oh, that is so painful. I
Oh,
wish I wish Jack. It was a nice thing to say. I wish I didn't know that.
yeah.
Watching the game, it's something I didn't want to know because I just made me
Yeah.
feel bad for him. And we have been following this player.
Yeah.
We've
Oh,
seen
yeah.
him rise up in major junior hockey to be the best defenseman in the OHL playoffs and in the Memorial Cup tournament. This incredible two-way force at that level of play. We saw him have a struggle like this game in his first year in the AHL in Bakersfield, and then suddenly play this consistent, smart, safe hockey last year in Moscow before he got hurt. So this was just another learning step. I don't think it's the last we've seen of Dmitry Samorukov. He's this huge guy. He's a smart hockey player. He's shown an ability to learn and adapt and improve at
Yeah.
different levels. And that's what's going to happen, I think, with Dmitry Samorukov. So, all
At
right.
this moment in time, though, he is On the depth chart of left defenseman on the Oilers, he's behind an awful lot of guys. When if Dave Tippett has a choice of any one of a number of other guys, either Bakersfield guys or depth guys like Russell and Cuckoo, that this may well be his only game of the season. And what a nightmare of a time for him. I feel bad. Now, David, you when you said Keith, that was your bad thing, right?
Oh yeah, I didn't
Did you
give him
kind
a
of
good
jump
thing.
ahead to your bad
I
thing? So
did.
we need
I
a good
did.
thing. You
It
must
was
have seen
top.
something good in that game.
It was top of mind was all the bad things that happened in that game.
Yeah.
Very much so. My good thing was Mike Smith.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, he looked like Mike Smith. He looked good,
Mm-hmm.
moved the puck well. The team looked better in some ways around him. It's hard to say that when they give up 17 grade A shots. He let in four of them. They were all pretty tough shots, and he saved 4 or 5 5 alarm chances, 5 alarm shots. And he was healthy. He looked healthy. He was moving well. He looked good. That's all good news for the Edmonton Oilers because, man, do they need Mike Smith? Do they ever need the Mike Smith of last season, this season? And it'll be interesting to see if he plays, when he plays next. If it's next game, it'll be one of the 2 games, I'm assuming,
Yeah, I
not
would
both.
think
So,
back to back.
so we'll see what happens. I guess it depends on how he's feeling as much as anything, but and what he reports back. But he looked really good. He wasn't the reason they lost. In fact, he was the reason they clawed their way back into the game 2-2. He made a number of big saves. There was one absolutely splendid save early in the second period
After Cuckoo turned it
where,
over behind the net after the long,
yeah,
long shift, and he made the pad save off of, can't remember who the shooter was, but he was a sniper and he didn't miss. That was a great save.
it really was. And it was just there was a number of them. And after that save, the Oilers started to really fight back in the game, and they looked good for a while there, and then of course things fell apart.
Yeah.
All right,
Where
Bruce.
where I saw problems was forwards on the back check. That
Yeah,
there was a lot of wide open spaces out there, and especially that line of Thomas, Kyrou, and Tarasenko. They really had their way with Edmonton, and the fact that Coach Craig Berube was able to twice get that line out against the raw rookie defenseman in the opening 7 minutes of the game says that the home coach was doing a pretty good taking advantage of the last change and getting the line matchup he wanted out there. And 200 wins for Craig Berube, local man from Calahoo, Alberta. That's a nice accomplishment for him. So you see why
indeed.
one of the reasons why with those how he won those matchups tonight.
Yeah. Um, your number, Bruce.
Oh yeah, my number is 02. And that is the big score on the big scoreboard. It seems like early in every friggin' Oilers game for the last month. 0 being the score for the Oilers, 2 being for the other guys. 7 times out of the last 8 games. Not only have they given up the first goal, they've given up the first goal and the second goal. 7 times in 8 games.
Brutal.
Like they've won 1 of the 7, and that's about what you could roll the dice 70 or 700 times, and you'd win 1 out of every 7 if you're down 2-0. Like it is just not the way to succeed in this league. And yet, time and time and time again, they find themselves looking up and saying, "Oh, 0-2 already. How'd that happen?"
The Oilers are getting outworked, Bruce, is what I
Oh,
see in a
oh,
lot of these games, and outworked early on. And you mentioned it, the forwards not coming back. That was evident all night long. They've got to increase their intensity again. And again, it's so first game back after
mm,
a long break. They had some hard fought games coming out of the losing streak where they really did work hard.
mm-hmm.
Um, but we got to see more of that. I would have liked to see Tyler Benson in tonight's game. Is he on COVID protocol or not?
No, he was just a coach's decision again because Dave
He should
Tippett
be in.
wants to see Brendan Perlini,
And Kyle
and
Turris.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know,
And
Benson should be
what
in
did
there.
they get done tonight besides get burned on a couple of chances? Anyway, it's this was Dave Tippett's first game back after 3 out as well, and those games you're talking where the Oilers came fighting back, those were during the time Tippett was out. So you know that the many growing howling mob for Dave Tippett is not going to be any quieter after this game.
I'll be completely honest here, Bruce. The thought popped in my head. I think for the first time since Tippett took over the coach tonight, for the first time, I thought, I wonder if this team would get. Sometimes you do see teams get a rocket boost mid-season with a new coach,
Vancouver.
and it tonight was the first time that thought occurred to me. Like, and I'm not calling for Dave Tippett's head, but that was just something that I just thought it like there's something wrong right now a little bit. And so again, here I am. I've said I'm not going to make too much of this game, so I won't. But that was one of the thoughts that did occur to me. Like, I wonder.
Well, I'm not going to say it either, but I'm listening to the people who are saying it, and there's some rationale to the argument. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. My number, and maybe this is a number in defense of Dave Tippett, I think it is maybe, is 11. That's the number of defensemen that the Edmonton Oilers have employed in 30 games so far this season. 11 defensemen. Darnell Nurse, Cody Ceci, Tyson Barrie, who's I think playing really well, Evan Bouchard, Chris Russell, Philip Broberry, Duncan Keith, Slater Cuckoo, Marcus Niemelainen, William Lagasson, and now Dmitry Samorukov. That's a lot of defensemen in a short amount of time, Bruce.
Holy mackerel, we got a lot of defense.
And a lot of those players are really good players too. Nothing wrong with those.
Some of them are good players. I mean, there's a lot. There's 8 lefties on that list. There's 3 righties that they basically had all year, other than the time Ceci was out with the COVID protocol. But the lefties, it's been a revolving door, and they've all been getting COVID. Half of them been getting hurt. Like it's 2 or 3 different things for some of these guys.
And the righties have been getting the job done. I mean, the 3 righties, Ceci, Barrie, and Bouchard, have all, when you compare their offensive contributions compared to their mistakes and defensive contributions, it all adds up pretty good. These are 3 solid NHL players, all 3 of these guys at this point. The best one of the whole lot of them is Darnell Nurse, who's having a great season, but he's been out injured. Now he's out, with COVID. And after that, on left defense, Bruce, not one of them, in my opinion, has distinguished himself. The closest in a short amount of time is William Lagasson, who I think has played pretty strong, pretty steady hockey in a bottom pairing role. So I hope he's the guy I would go with. You're going to go with Nurse. They're going to go with Keith.
Keith,
I think
sure.
Cuckoo looked pretty good tonight, generally, except for a few plays. Except for a few plays. Anyway, but I like Lagasson. I think they need his toughness, and put him out there.
Analytics darling William Lagasson. Now, who would have thought that before this season? He's always had pretty sketchy looking underlying numbers, but this year they've been actually really, really, really good in a fairly small sample. But
is that right? Is this is on ice numbers? You're talking about like
he's like 60%
goals for
60% stuff, way up there. And in the past he's been. I mean, last year the Oilers averaged 16 shots on net for 60 minutes he was on the ice. Like the puck never got into the other team's end. But this year, at least that part has been way better. And you don't know if it's just a short-term fluke on that side of the equation, or whether he's actually, there's some parts of his game that are developing that maybe these are early signs of him turning a corner. And it's too soon to know, but I think they need to look at him a little more, especially given the alternatives.
After 15 years in the organization, William Lagasson's turned a corner. According to our numbers, he's also done well, Bruce. According to the grade A shots, he's sawed it off, which is really good for a defenseman. Now, he's only played 88 even strength minutes. So this is a very, very small sample size. And I make nothing of it except to say he's looked good so far. He's played good so far. So he should be, I would say he'd be the guy I'd be putting in the lineup, because he's gotten it done so far, and we'll see what happens next. You ride the hot hand and you reward the player who's performing. So, we'll see what happens next. So is it New Jersey?
New Jersey at 11 a.m. Mountain Time on Friday, which will be New Year's Eve, which might be a challenge for some people with their, working sort of regular jobs, if those even exist anymore. And then they play noon on Saturday, New Year's Day, against New York Islanders. So back to back, Wednesday night, Friday afternoon, Saturday afternoon. So the most compressed 3 and 4 days that you can possibly get, basically. And that's the only way you can do it, because they couldn't play an afternoon game tomorrow after tonight's game, but they can on Friday and follow that up on Saturday. So basically, they play 3 games in under 72 hours.
Well, the good news is the 2 games are close by, like the Saturday, Sunday
Each
games.
other,
It's just bus rides for those ones. This is a flight from St. Louis, obviously. And of course, nothing's guaranteed in terms of who's playing what in the future. We'll see how things come about by the weekend in terms of COVID protocols and who's out and who's in. So
I'm looking for a spark from the team. I didn't think I saw enough of that tonight. And I will blame rust and layoff and all the things I mentioned earlier. But I thought Draisaitl in the first 5 or 10 minutes was going hard. But I didn't see a time where it felt like the Oilers were lifting their game and putting their stamp on the game. That lasted any length of time at all. This was St. Louis's game tonight for most of the 60 minutes. So.
Maybe they're like me, Bruce. I mean, I've had turkey on Christmas and I've had turkey twice a day ever since then. So I could hardly keep my eyes open. I was in such a turkey haze during the game. So
it's an ongoing thing. I mean, I certainly remember Edmonton getting pasted 5-1 by Calgary on home ice 2 days after Christmas a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
They trailed after 11 seconds and never got back in it. But you know what? There's 2 teams on the ice, and they probably both ate turkey. So why is it that Edmonton's always the one having the tryptophan headaches?
They look like a bunch of ham eaters to me, those St. Louis Blues, Bruce. All right. Ham-eating bastards. Okay. Credit to the St. Louis Blues. That looked like a good team.
They played well, and they deserved to win. Bottom line is when you say that at the end of the night, you can be disappointed in your team, but disappointed in the result. To me, it's a fair result, so I'm not that disappointed.
It was a fair result. The Oilers could have been worse, actually.
I'd like to see more than one power play, but that's another.
Yeah, that's a good point. I guess Evan Bouchard wasn't in the St. Louis uniform. If he had been, then they would have had 6 or 7 penalties for the Blues. So.
Bouchard, did you see it? He drew the one and only St. Louis penalty, and he got up and he was yapping at the referee. And you know what? He was absolutely right, because the referee that was 10 feet away, looking right at him, getting buried head first on the board, refused to call it. And the guy out at center ice called it. You could see Bouchard saying, "The guy out there made the call. What are you doing?" And I'm thinking, yeah, right on, Evan, give it to him, because
he's mad. He could have had his neck broke.
For a reason.
He could have had a concussion.
Head first into the boards.
Like, you get hit like that, you are mad. Like you're like, as Mark Messier would say, he snapped, and he didn't take out anyone's knee.
2 penalties on him later, including the one for high sticking. That was just 8 minutes left, down by 2. I mean, it's a bad time to be making phantom calls there, Mr. Stripes. But anyway, like I say, the better team won, and that was just a mild aggravation in a game where ultimately I think justice did prevail in this game.
Yeah, I agree, Bruce.
But I did get a little aggravated.
Bruce, thanks for talking tonight.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
And in the meantime, and in between times, this has been another edition of the Cult of Hockey podcast.